Hi, my name is Paula Gloria, and this show is called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. It was originally called Farther Down the Rabbit Hole because when I came back from India after being there for 4 years to study the Divine Mother, I had in my little arsenal of tools to get back into the Western world many interviews that were done with people who are stars on the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? Except at the time that these interviews were made, the movie was not even contemplated, and our topics went into, our interviews went into the topics more deeply. So I felt as a good way to kind of warn the audience what was coming, it was farther down the rabbit hole. Within about 6 months, I encountered Webster Tarpley, who is an expert on international terrorism, and I started to learn about 9/11 truth, which was, it took me 4 months to just sort of adjust myself to get through his book. But Webster and I became a pretty good team. I felt that I would just give this information out for a while, and then I could retire back into what I was really interested in, which is the Divine Mother, or what's loosely known as Tantra, or creating your reality as an ancient science. So the movie What the Bleep Do We Know talks about creating your reality, and oftentimes people would criticize it, saying it's too airy-fairy. And in truth, I welcome such criticisms because I feel we can go more deeply into the topics. So after I went from a weekly call-in show, I had the good fortune to have a daily show. And then I was really off and running, definitely being a show that was politics and spirituality. And then about 6 months after that, thanks to someone helping me, I got initiated into YouTube. Once I was on the internet, the shows took on a life of their own because I had comments from people, and then it became an interactive experience. And I began to see, and I'm seeing more each day, that the comments that are left on the shows are as valuable as the shows. So today I am so pleased to have with me a guest that is going to really illustrate my passion for the practical and for what we can manifest. Jasmuheen is famous really for her ability to have discovered what the potential is of the human body. And I feel, Jas, when we have people like you, when you indicate a greater potential, other people can be heartened.
Yeah.
And as I was listening to your show with Alan, and we were doing the character generator, you didn't want to be called a breatharian because breatharians don't eat food.
Yeah.
And yet your accomplishments, which you probably don't even want to call accomplishments, what you stumbled on, indicate that you have tools with which you can serve the suffering of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, the breatharian label too is very limited. Technically, a breatharian is someone who never eats and never drinks, whereas what we've been interested in is simply unhooking ourselves from our dependence on the world's food resources so we have choice. Right. We know that we can increase the Divine Mother's love flow, which is really what it's about, and it's my favorite topic,
right.
And bring in this pulse of love so that it's so vibrant and so strong that it begins to activate all sorts of things in the human body that we're not aware of can even happen. And also, not only can it just radiate through us, but it can radiate out through us into this world and literally transform those around us, because we're delivering through these vehicles an amazing level of true nourishment, which I believe everyone's hungry for.
Right. So in other words, you are kind of penetrating to the source of nourishment.
Yeah.
In other words, the food that people eat and they feel happy when they eat, like breast milk, you know, when you're first born. Behind that energy is the love of the mother.
Yeah. Well,
and then that breast milk is an expression of that. So I think the misunderstanding that people may have about yogis or breatharians or people who have this accomplishment is somehow they're denying the love and the life and the experience. And I think to really be, to where this comes naturally, not as some kind of sought after feat.
Yeah, and it has
increasing the love.
Yeah, it is. It's very much about that. There are thousands of people all over the world who are now, who have increased the pulse of this divine mother love. Like here we have black behind us, and black is the divine mother's womb, and from this womb of the most incredible field of love came the light that gave birth to creation. And this love, divine mother love, you could say, is the very underlying riverbed from which the matrix of life springs into being. And most people, its pulse in our physical system is very, very weak. I talk about it as a little mouse peep, you know, like and yet in order to experience all its gifts, it has to move from like a midi where you're just surviving and then going through the natural degenerative phase of life and into death, but you can rev it up, pump up the volume of it by lifestyle, so that it's like through your system, from the internal realms, from the matrix that runs through all, and then out through your body, and with your mental expectation and understanding of what it is, just commanding that it deliver all your vitamins, nourishment, everything you need through the physical system to keep it strong and healthy, self-sustaining and regenerative. I mean, there's a little more than that, but
well,
in essence,
I'm sure there's a lot more than that, because there's also
love.
Many paths, and when you had the ability not to eat, and it was causing sort of a flurry, and obviously it's going to be a reaction. I mean, I see even with some of the thoughts that I introduced just in politics, you get a flurry and a feedback when you have some out-of-the-box concepts about who the enemy really is, and misinformation and disinformation. And so likewise, I found that when I was going throughout India studying the saints, both alive and dead, you begin to see that the issues that we have in modern time with machines and computers and communication being so efficient doesn't mean that we're any different than the most ancient people looking for the meaning of life and trying to overcome death. Actually,
I mean, I'm not probably the right one to speak to about this, because I actually feel that the indigenous people were more civilized than we are. As far as, you know, the Australian Aboriginals from my country, they lived in that land for 40, 50,000 years in complete harmony with Gaia, none of the problems that white society introduces, in great levels of health and happiness. And many of the indigenous people have huge understanding and connectedness with Mother Earth energy, and intergalactically and interdimensionally as well, and huge levels of consciousness.
Their eyesight is phenomenal.
All sorts of things, And the yogis have always lived on prana too, and all we've done is actually just bring this knowledge from indigenous teachings and the yogis, bring it back into the West and try and shift focus again. So it does seem to be a little bit out of the box, and yet it's coming back into natural states of being. You know, where does true happiness lie? What is true health? What about physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health?
And so it's a process of seeking balance.
It definitely being
And so
in
when you
balance.
got all that reaction, I could naturally see how you told Alan before that you retreated more into, I guess, just living your life and not bothering anyone else by introducing a concept that they may not be comfortable with, until a time came that your divine inspiration said, you know what? If you can really do this, and you know you can do this, and it's your truth, you should express it. And tell that for this show.
Well,
that was.
It is interesting, because I think sometimes, there are things happening within human evolution on a mass level today, and I think every human being on our planet has a gift to give this planet, and I think our planet has a gift to give us. First, Gaia arranges all her molecules and everything around us to give us physical form for spirit to inhabit, to experience the realm of duality as well. And I see that we are spiritual beings having a human experience rather than human beings trying to be spiritual. So we all have gifts to give, and if we're not delivering these gifts, if we're not sharing these gifts, then sometimes we get a bit of a kick and a bit of a prompt, and we're not always conscious about what they are. But one of the things...
That's an interesting point. We might not be conscious of what they are.
But we eventually wake up. We eventually get conscious. You know, as soon as a human being says, who am I and what am I doing here? And surely our world can live in peace and with respect and honor and integrity and as one people happily on one planet. As soon as we start thinking these things, this love flow that is bubbling within the matrix within us starts to just go. Now that you're asking, yes, there is another reality.
Now that you're
it's
asking.
already there. It bubbles. It just bubbles along
Right.
while we live our lives outside of ourselves, looking outside for health and happiness and satisfaction and food. And, you know, any famous person can tell you, you get the smart car and the smart house and the good loves and all of that, but they're still hungry. Because what we're really hungry for is a source of nourishment that is only contained in the deepest channels of the purest love of that divine mother energy that bubbles through creation. And as we pump up its volume, everybody just gets less hungry. You lose your physical hunger, you lose your emotional hunger, you lose your mental hunger, you lose your spiritual hunger, because the nourishment people are really looking for is just divine mother love. And that may just be a reality that I have, and I could say, hey, increase your chi flow, same game. Increase the flow of cosmic particles, same game. It's just such a pure force of nourishment that flows through all, through us, through everything. When we pump up its volume, humanity's hungers disappear and we become a civilized species.
Because often, you know, in my political crowd, people could say, oh, yogis are selfish, or oh, you're saying this can be done, and you're turning your back on the fact that people really need food. Because you say, oh, I don't need food, therefore you don't need food. But this may not be someone else's reality by any means. And what you described before was that the reason you were to come out and share your gift is precisely because there are so many. What was it that the vision is?
Every 2 seconds a child dies of hunger-related diseases, and in the West every 4 seconds an adult dies from health issues. That it's unnecessary.
Now my experience is when people I don't know, if they're not introduced properly to siddhis or supernormal powers, and they long to achieve them before a certain maturity in the soul, it seems like, oh yeah, let's take care of the poor just sort of as a tag on. But what they really want is to just be able to do it themselves. But in truth, you can't do it yourself until you have that sense of connection with everyone.
Exactly.
And when I was studying a book about democracy, trying to figure out, you know, how to make what was happening and what was supposed to be happening and what was actually happening. You know, why are people who don't want to go to war, why are they going to war? Why do we have this problem with our administration? And some say a secret government, others say a weapons industry that's out of control. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized it's because we're not in touch with what our own potential is. And the ancient Greeks had a notion of immortality that could only be achieved through service to the state. But when we hear service to the state, we think of something political, not in a like the politics of the body that you were describing, where the love is flowing. And then everyone's included.
And see, the thing is, you get to a point where you can pump up the volume of this love flow to the degree that you have no agenda anymore. So your only interest is service.
And you wouldn't care if someone believes
and
in you or not.
You don't care whether someone believes you or not, because it's irrelevant. You just get on with doing what you've come to do. You don't have to go and wave banners and say, yes, look at me, I can do this, and I'm going to prove it to you, because there's nothing to prove. The greatest proof in what we're sharing is grace. How much grace is in your life, how much magic is in your life, how much love is in your life, how much synchronicity is in your life. When you get that running constantly, then you know that your model of reality is working. And, you know, we don't need to convince anyone in the world to have a model of reality. Just look at your life honestly and say, are you experiencing health, happiness, and great love on all levels of your being, and a lot of grace? And if not, then have the courage to change your model of reality. Refine it until you are, until you have no more hungers anymore, and then you can come into a place of absolute selfless service and do for others as required in the world by grace. without having to chase anything. It is all delivered to your door because of what's resonating through you.
You know, you said you weren't interested in achieving this, right? It just came to you that you were so filled with some cosmic bliss or alignment or balance that hunger just drifted away.
Yeah.
Now, when I was around these Chinese people that had this going, the Yanqin people, and just spending time with them, I had a few days where I felt in such a level of such deep inspiration, like when I used to do photography when I was in high school. My mom would ask me to come out of the dark room for dinner, and I just couldn't do it. And I could see how Beethoven would be, you know, working on things.
Just moved.
That's okay. They can adjust it.
Okay, sorry.
The inspirational process is such that you're so absorbed with the inspiration, you're not thinking about eating.
Yeah.
But I also found there came a time where I felt it was a deep choice in me that I enjoyed having an Italian meal and red wine and being with people. And so when you say no judgment, I feel when I'm in the presence of somebody who's accomplished whatever they've accomplished that could be recognized as a siddhi or supernatural ability, it's happened so naturally that they don't say, I can do something that you can't do.
Exactly.
And you should do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's acceptance. And the flip side is, I studied with a master at one time in the ashram who drank a pound of mercury.
Wow.
And I wasn't in the room, but I knew the people around and I knew his MO, so I was sure it was so. But I'm kind of going, you know, what the heck? Why did he do that? Then I come back to New York and I start to hear about the kinds of fumes and toxins that were ingested by the first responders during 9/11, how they're not getting their health benefits, and it's just so shocking. But in the back of my mind, I had a model that no matter how bad the poison, that still balance could be there. So to me, people like you and people like this master I described give us models. We may not, I don't think I would ever desire to swallow mercury. I can't even imagine, who knows, every time I say I can't imagine, something happens, but that's not the point, but at least it gives me a model that this can be done. So when you go to the UN and you work with people who are probably at their wits' ends because they just don't know what to do, you know, to help the hunger, then you go, there's Jasmuheen, she's with a group of people, and the love is flowing. It's
interesting because I've been so inspired myself, like you, from many people over the years when you hear that they are doing things, and it's not that you want to do the same, like yogis who would be buried for 20, 30 years under the ground. They have no food, they have no fluid, they're not moving, there's no oxygen, they get dug up later and they're just a bit stiff and have a stretch and a breath. You know, they're not even breathing, and they slow their metabolic rate down, they move their consciousness out of their body, they go cosmic traveling. It's not something that I would want to do as far as sitting, being buried under the ground and doing that, but I like the idea of the potential, and I've enjoyed a lot of cosmic traveling myself in my own meditations because of these models, knowing it's possible. And that's what it does, it just brings in different standards, knowing it's possible. See, part of the thing for our work too, we don't feel we have anything to prove because all we've done is give ourselves freedom of choice. If there is food and somebody feels like having the flavor of a small Italian meal or something, they would do that.
It was a camaraderie
because it's fun.
Eating with people that I like.
And that's what people miss. You know, in this pathway, they usually unhook from their dependence on physical food, prove it to themselves for about 6 months till the weight's stable, the energy's stable, you're feeling good, your sleep patterns have changed, you're sleeping less, you know it's all locked in, you are free, you've proven it to you. And then some people go into just having a meal a week, or some people have a meal once a month.
Just to sort of
or
stay
I'll
connected?
have Christmas, because it's fun.
Connected?
I have soup at Christmas time. You know, I have a light vegetable soup, a pureed, my husband makes me vegetable pumpkin soup usually, it's my favorite. But at Christmas time, because that's the family you're eating, it's fun.
But this isn't like you're going to stop eating so there'll be more food for other people?
No,
because
no,
that
no.
would say nature's not abundant and can't
Yeah,
provide for all. That's not
true.
the purpose.
No, but the bottom line is too, like we can test our pranic nourishment percentage, it's easy to do. And if you're running a pranic nourishment percentage of 50%, that means you're getting it from your lifestyle, from other forces, other energy currents, then you can immediately unhook from your dependence on the world's food resources by 50%.
Right.
So that's fantastic. So one, we in the West are taking less food. At the same time we're working politically and on other levels to redistribute resources into third world countries, doing what we can to awaken consciousness so we become more compassionate, as well as having people on the ground working in different countries as examples, and massive educational programs like this. So we're working on levels, but it's not just, hey, look at me, I can do this, so you should do this too. It's very much just understand human potential. And I just like to say to people, anybody out there who believes that there is an all-knowing, all-loving, powerful force that is within you, within everything, ask it to reveal to you how to do this, because it knows. This is human evolution. It's not going to go away.
Right.
We're just in the beginning of it, making noise about it, but you wait 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, people are going to be saying, those crazy people, they were right.
Except,
we know that, so we can handle it now.
You know, one of my favorite producers is Harold Channer, and he talks about Buckminster Fuller and that scarcity has been transcended as of about 1972 with the technology. And in the back of my mind, Harold and I get along just great. But I always have this model that he's very forthcoming to say that it's not his model, that scarcity has always been transcended, and that these demonstrations of the masters was that. However, what I respect so much about him questioning it is it's not yet his reality. So he is not into finding a master to sort of, I don't know, sponge off of, you know, what's the word? It's like, you can mathematically determine that what you're talking about is possible, and the physics, but there are a lot of blocks, and people say, oh, free energy has been blocked by the government, Nikola Tesla, but if you think about it deeply, we only block ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
So if we unfold that, then the politics will come along, and I bet you anything, when you had this inspiration, as you moved out, it wasn't like, oh man, I can't get involved with the vibes of the world, it's going to ruin my peaceful, you know?
Well, see, one of the things is people tend to think they absorb energy, whereas I don't have that reality. I have the reality that I radiate energy, that if you imagine you're just plugged in through the heart chakra, particularly to this never-ending source of love and infinite intelligence, and that you breathe it through you, you know, you have no physical nose, you have spiritual nose, just breathe it in, let it flow through you out into the world, then what you're radiating through you, the universe responds to anyway. There are no blocks, because the grace sets it all up. It moves through all the channels and makes the most amazing meetings happen. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to pick up phone calls. You don't have to run around chasing.
Or you don't have to live in a cave.
It just comes to you. You don't have to live in a cave. You know, you can be out in the world living and loving and laughing and enjoying. And if you're someone who doesn't need physical food, but you want an Italian meal and a glass of red wine, because hey, it tastes good, you can. And it's, you know, and part of this is not letting yourself be boxed by other people. I have grandchildren. When I'm with my granddaughter and she's having a breakfast of mangoes because she sleeps over with me, and sometimes she has a piece for Siri, and then she picks up and she just shoves it in my mouth because she thinks Nana needs a piece of mango. And I'm sitting there with maybe a cup of tea, and suddenly there's mango in my mouth, and I go, thank you, darling, that's so delicious. And she goes, and she wants to share. And then I just say, thank you, honey, and I'll swallow it, and I'll just say, but Nana's happy, she's got tea, that's your breakfast.
Now you've completely, you've transcended the need for food as a grounding or a balancing. Because in Ayurvedic medicine, mango would increase the pitta.
Oh, you transmute it all into light.
But once I remember I was working so hard here at the studio, and I got sort of in that place past no return, and I knew I needed to ground, and I knew I needed food, but it was too late. I was too far gone. If I'd eaten, I would have got a stomach ache. So I went out, and I'm just asking in my heart, you know, I've got to get the rest of these shows out and things.
Crummy.
And I'm a little bit cold because they keep it cold in here for the machines. So I move into the sunshine, and the sun feels good on my body. And I start to remember my early morning practice watching the sunrise, because my eye doctor said that after 10 years, because he had my records, my eyesight was better. And I was watching the sun come up. But this is the middle of the day. I'm so desperate. I just say, I need this energy deep in my body, deep in my intestines, and I just looked straight at the sun and just brought it in. And I felt myself ka-chunk, you know, like balance. But it came from that asking. So when you were talking earlier about this bubbling up, you first have to make the request.
You have to know what's possible and then ask. And this is probably one thing I am gifted at, is asking. I was 7 years old. The priest said, Jesus said, all you have to do is ask, and I believed it. I never doubted it. And from that moment on, I just asked everything. I just acted as if there was this wise, intelligent, loving force, and I've just asked every situation, every problem. Help! I mean, that's my greatest tool. Help!
Well,
give me the answer.
What I'm going to ask for now is that in the future we have more time to do more shows, because there's so much more we can go into, but the shows come to a close. So I want to thank you, Jas, for joining us, Jasmuheen. And I want to thank all of you viewers out there for considering new realities and for going farther down the rabbit hole. My name is Paula Gloria. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
It's been a wonderful excursion, and I'm sure it will stimulate people on many different levels, and I'm really looking forward to the comments, and we'll stay in touch on it.
Good.
Because people will say, oh, you know, what are you bringing impossible ideas?
It's huge on ratings, this topic. Ratings usually go through the roof because you get everyone going, rah, and everyone go, oh! So it's really controversial.
I've made some of my most vicious commenters into subscribers because I believe in nonviolent communication, that there's an unmet need behind it. And I think the unmet need might be for security. They don't want to be foolish. They don't want to feel that they're being duped while someone else is suffering. So.
That's why it's nice to, you know, to say to people, just to ask this to be revealed to you, because it's in the matrix now. It's in the morphogenetic field. It's out there.
No, you know, when I was immature, first starting transcendental meditation, I believed all this. But we were told that you lived off the nourishment of the air at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when the yogis get up to eat the air. And that you had to live in the mountains. You know, you couldn't live in the world.
But that was other lifetimes. Now it's different. Now we're yogis in the city.
Well, yeah, maybe the times are such that that's the case.
Times have changed.
Because, you know, my experience, I get more balance through service. And
See,
when I first heard that, I didn't really want to do service. See, but now it's my joy.
But that is the bottom line. One of the biggest things was successfully being able to live on prana is service. We have an 8-point program that we promote from meditation and prayer and lightening up the diet, treating the body as a temple, service and other things. And this is such a huge component because it puts you on the channel of kindness and compassion. So
is someone coming in here for the next show, Alan?
You increase your divine mother love flow when you are compassionate.
We get under pressure when they want the studio back, so maybe his guest didn't show up. You're going to do another show with Alan?
I think so.
Oh, Alan. He's usually pretty good. That's just, it's wonderful, honey. Because I've been traveling for 3 weeks. That was, thank you, yes.
Come on in.
Anyway, keep me posted and let me know.
Here, we'll, hi, this is a studio. This is Yi Ching and Joan Roth. This is Jasmuheen.
Hi.
I thought we could do a show with.
Should I get more mics?
I'm sorry, I hope you can't wait for us for too long.
No, we were doing a show.
One
more chair.
One more chair?
Yeah. It's good. And then we have some time. We'll do that other little piece. But I can also get you with my camera doing that piece.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
We can do.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just meant to be down the UN at 6:15.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I've got to meet with Mina.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it far from here? No, just a cab ride?
Yeah.
Just a cab ride, but it's traffic, isn't
You
it?
want to be in the middle? I think you should
I'll
be
sit
in
in
the
there.
middle. Okay, you take
Hey,
this.
Joan, did you want to be?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I'm Joan.
Okay, we need one more mic. Here, Joan.
Who's sitting? So I can
Wait.
mic them?
But
Joan?
also we need another chair for people. I'll bring here.
I'll take care of that. Let me just get the mic so we can do the sound
You got a
check.
mic?
I got a
We're
mic.
under a
mic.
little time.
Oh, wait.
And the next tape is in there?
No, here. Put this tape
Okay.
in,
Okay.
and then I'll put that on her, and then I'll set the camera. I'll set it. Paula, you go in and set the tape. Oh, and I'll just set the camera. Quite a production here. That looks
That's good.
great.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. You good? That was a good conversation.
Good.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
it was kind of dropped into more